Hey there, it's Keith for your success. Really hoping you are well today, and thank you so much for joining me on this session on becoming the leader you want and need to be. So, yeah, it's about leadership, it's about management, it's about helping people. Um, and I'm really excited about this particular session because one of the things I've found through experience, and yours may be different to mine, is very often when you move into a new role, you become a leader, you've got a team to take care of, and so on. It's great and it's exciting, but there's not usually, or not always, I should say, um, any associated training that goes with it. It's like, great, you've been fantastic, you're definitely worth this opportunity, you've earned it. So here you go, look after this team. And there's going to be support, there's going to be mentoring, and so on and so forth. But sometimes it's really good whether you are just starting or you've been doing it for a while, just to kind of check on a few steps. Make sure you're heading in a direction that you're happy with, and importantly, not just for you, but for the people that you're looking after. Okay. So as we go through here today, there's going to be all sorts of bits and pieces that I reference. But the thing that I want you to take from today is about find out who you are as a leader, find out what works for you, but importantly, what you need to deliver for your team and the people around you. And a lot of what we talk about today is going to give you those ideas and those thoughts so you can start putting them into some appropriate actions. As always, when this session is finished, if you feel that there are questions, things that you want to ask, or just bits you want to clarify on, you are welcome to contact me as always, just so I can help out with those final points if there's anything else you want to kind of go through. Okay. So that's kind of setting like a scene for today. What I'm going to do is make sure I stay with you through this. So I will be in the corner of your screen. There'll be plenty of information that goes up on the screen as well, maybe some amusing photos as well, but certainly plenty to make sure that you get everything you need from this time that you're spending today. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start. And I guess the thing to really look at is this really is our starting point. And what I'm going to do, I've done a little bit already, is look at some important insights and introductions. We're going to call that the warm up, if you like. Because then what we're going to do that follows that, we're going to look at 8 steps to becoming the leader that you want and need to be. There's going to be some stuff that comes after that. But the thing I want you to kind of really kind of see today with these 8 steps, um, they're not progressive steps like an instruction manual or if you're taking a recipe from a book. These are actions that you've got to look at and take on a regular basis to kind of help you out. Okay. So as we go through, there will be progression, there'll be things to think about. Um, Take notes, play back again, whatever works for you, but make sure that you get all that you can from this because it will be super helpful. Okay. So let us continue. So here's our warm up. And as I kind of said at the start, it's important to kind of be aware or find out about your leadership style. Now, what I'm going to do to begin with, there are 7 that I'm going to reference. There are 2 that I'm going to leave to one side today. They're kind of what I would describe as up and coming styles of leadership, which is situational and mindful. I'm not going to get into them. I want to focus on the 7 that are highly recognized. You may have come across before, and if there's an opportunity to do so in the future, we'll look at situational and mindful. Let's focus on these key 7 to begin with, though. Okay, so first type of leader or leadership style, if you like, there's the authoritarian or the autocratic. Okay, now you may have come across this. You may have seen it. You may even have experienced. This is top-down style of leadership. It's based on the idea that the boss is the boss and that is it. You make all the decisions, you hold all the power, and you have little or no desire at all to gather input from the team on a regular basis. Okay. Your employees and teammates are just there to follow orders. Now, in my opinion, and forgive me, I might share one or two here, so you may feel differently, but this is a dated approach. It's more the kind of thing you would see in a gangster movie where everyone refers to you as boss, and that's it. Whatever you say goes. There's no ins and outs, no feedback, no listening. It's just your vision, and off you go. So for me, not the most useful way of doing things. For others, different. So you just get to see. But that is the first style of leadership to be aware of. Okay. Following that, you've got the bureaucratic style of leadership. Okay. Now, very much so. This is a relative, maybe even a cousin of the autocratic style. Um, this style of leadership runs on rules, policy, and is all about maintaining the status quo. Standard procedure always wins. That's the favorite. Now, with this, or proponents of this style, I should say, will listen to employees, yeah, which is a little bit different from the first leadership style we saw, and may even acknowledge their good ideas. But if those ideas don't fit in within the established system, won't see the light of day. That'll be it. Nothing new comes to light. Yeah, makes sense? Okay, so that's another thing to kind of look at. Again, you may have experienced this. This might be part of your style. Um, but let's have a look at some of the options that you've also got as well. Now, you've also got the democratic. Okay, and this style of leadership um, relies really on team members providing input to help the team move forward through getting the most ideas out and then being able to come up with the best decisions. Now, although the democratic style of leadership gets that team member interaction and that feedback, ultimately they still make the final call. Okay. But because they're working in that particular way, it's likely that the decision they make will be in sync with the conversations that they've had and what the feeling is and happening across the team. Yeah. Okay. So that's another way of doing things, another thing to think of. Again, you might start recognizing some of these traits in yourself, but again, let me just take you through one or two more because you've also got the coaching style. Okay. Now, this style of leadership is where the leader or the team leader will see members and the potential that can be unleashed and tapped into to help the business and the company grow. Okay. Now, this coaching leadership relies on your ability to connect with your team's capabilities, understand their strengths, areas for improvement, so that you can make the right strategic opportunities or look for them, I should say. Now, the chances are you enjoy working with a wide variety of people and often make a massive positive impact because you are giving that people that opportunity to grow and develop and see their role really fitting out to making a difference. Okay, make sense? As you go through this, you'll probably see why there is so much that we put into with motivational mapping throughout your personal training, your academy. Why? Because this style of leadership would often look for some of those points, and you may see a few of those, a few other of those traits, excuse me, coming in as we look at some of the other styles of leadership. Okay. Now you've also got another style of leadership which is transformative, visionary, if you like. Now, this is the style I've often revered in organizations that are looking to and prioritize growth. Okay. Why is that? Well, because you're constantly challenging employees to not just meet, but exceed their goals. Now, what you'll find with this particular leadership style, it requires dynamic communication skills, the ability to win people over to your vision of what's possible, but that's both for themselves and for the company. It's like, here we are, here's where we want to get to, and here's the bits that we can put in between, and here's how you're going to fit into that. Does that make sense? So you're taking people on a journey with you. Okay. You've then got the servant. Okay. Or as someone referred to me recently, the savant. It's the servant, in my opinion. Anyway, the founding principles of servant leadership include 9 particular behaviors. Okay. So note these down, take them on. But the first one is to serve first. Okay. Next, it's about adding value to others. You'll see a little bit of a trait building here. Build trust, but also listen to understand, not just listen to respond. Okay. Important one. Think about your thinking. What's actually going on and why? Increase your influence and then think about how you can do that. Demonstrate courage, whether it's listening, whether it's making a decision, whether it's putting yourself out there, doing something different. Live your values. So if there's things that you want people to do, show how you can demonstrate that. And in the nicest possible way, live your transformation. If this change is coming, live it, breathe it, demonstrate it. Okay. Now, as I said, there's traits that stand out, and I'll kind of line it up for you here. In other words, with this, you are focused on elevating your team members first. Their success reflects well on you, and the reward comes with it. That will follow. Okay. And the big thing that you'll find with this is within teams like this, morale is consistently high. Okay, makes sense? So again, you may see traits of a two or three different styles of leadership here. There will be a dominant one, I can promise you. But let me just go through the last bit on this so you can see the last one. Now, there's lots of different ways to pronounce this. I'm going to go with the way that I pronounce it. If it's not correct with you, I'm sorry. The laissez-faire style of leadership. Okay, now this is, as it says here, the ultra hands-off style of leadership. This is about delegating and it's transferring all the authority to your team members, your employees, the people that work around you. Okay. Now, you're always there to hook them up with whatever resources they need. So if there's a job that needs doing, what do they need? Here it is, off you go. But then in the nicest possible way, you let those team members run with it while you're looking after other matters. Okay. So sometimes people see this as, I'll let some of this stuff happen. I'm going to look after bigger picture stuff and so on and so forth. But what you do is you give people all the resources and time they need, but you just get on with other things. Okay. You check in with them from time to time. But what it means is your team members can take so much ownership of their roles in creative ways. Now that can be super empowering for the right people within your team. Okay. This again is why motivational mapping can come in because some people like to be able to run with things and get on with it. Other people like a bit more of a check-in. So you can see sometimes how different styles of management might need to blend or you use them in different ways for different people. But as I said, you will have dominant ones. Okay. But we're going to look at some other bits and pieces that go with this in just a second. Okay. But to begin with, and this is why we did that run through those 7 styles. Okay. Get to understand your leadership style. Okay. What are your strengths? Which areas maybe are there some improvement? Okay. As I said, there is a dominant style there. And are these qualities helping or hindering your leadership? So you may need to adapt a little bit, maybe adopt some change or maybe blend in one or two others. Okay. They'll say there'll be a dominant one, but how can you make it benefit you, the team you're looking after, but ultimately your personal training? Make sense? Now, once you determine which areas need some work, you can begin to look forward to ways to improve your leadership abilities. That's why we kind of did this as a starting point. Yeah, make sense? Good. Now, if you feel you want to kind of pause and reflect on this just for a few moments to think about what style of leadership am I, what suits me, where do I go well, where there are areas for improvement, please do so. Okay. If you're ready to continue, then we shall. So here we go. Now, what I want to give you now is just a few bits to check as you're moving along, just to be the best you can be. And this is what it's about. It's not being, for me anyway, better than anybody else. That will come, but be the best you can be first of all, because that's going to be the most benefit to your team and, of course, to yourself and ultimately your organization, your personal training. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue. Think about this. Encourage creativity. Okay. Now, this is the thing. Intellectual stimulation is one of the leadership qualities that define transformational leadership. Okay. Followers need to be encouraged to express their creativity. Okay. Whether it's a large amount, small amount, just give that opportunity. Effective leaders offer new challenges with ample support to achieve the goal. So it's one thing being asked to do a task, but how are you going to support it? What's going to be there to make that happen? Okay. Now, one way to foster creativity is to offer challenges to team members, okay? Making sure that the goals are within the grasp of their abilities, okay? And the things they want to focus on are important, not just for the sake of setting it, but are going to make a difference to their development, team, the organization, yeah? Okay. Now, the purpose of this kind of exercise, is to get people to stretch their limits, challenge their boundaries, and not be discouraged to barriers to success. Now, we've talked about this on other sessions that I've done. The opportunity to learn has got to be the thing that motivates you. So if there's an uncertainty or worry about trying something new, good. Do it, learn from it. If it goes well, what did you do well? If it didn't go quite to plan, what's the learning curve? What can you do differently next time? That is why when you give a goal or set a goal as an effective leader, the support is there during the process and at the end to get feedback and learning afterwards. Make sense? Good. Okay. The next thing, and this is an important one, serve as a role model. Okay. Now, one of the things that's really important, if you would like your team to perform or work in a particular way, very often it's important that you set that model, you set that style. Okay. So one of the things we'll talk about here is or idealized influence, excuse me, is another of the four key components of transformational leadership. Okay. Now, very often transformational leaders really kind of demonstrate the behaviors, the characteristics, and that's what they encourage in their followers because people are seeing it in them and it's easier to kind of see where we're heading towards. Okay. So you walk the walk, you talk the talk, and as a result, group members, team members admire that style of leadership and work to emulate those behaviors, the positive ones. Okay. Now, one of the things that you'll find, there's a lot of research behind this, but what it suggests is that leaders are able to foster a specific belief and then communicate that inspiration to their followers. Okay. Now, the result of that is followers are optimistic. They have high standards for performance and achievement. And if you want to become a better leader, working on modeling the qualities that you would like to see in others is something you have to demonstrate yourself. Make sense? Yeah. So, really important that you think about that. What is it you're putting out to the team around you? Because they're the bits they're going to see and they're going to learn from. Yeah. You'll see examples of that all around with maybe some of the organizations that you support and look after, maybe in the outside world, but you will see people that set phenomenal examples and the people that follow them really kind of buy into that and feel comfortable with that and they kind of exemplify that themselves as well. Yeah, good. Okay, so let's continue. Be passionate. I don't have to question this with your personal training. People are passionate about what you do, how it works, and how it all kind of brings it together for not just your team, but the clients you look after, and then ultimately the business. So here's the thing. Would you look to someone for guidance and leadership if they did not truly care about the goals of the team? Of course not. Okay. So great leaders are not just focused on getting team members to finish tasks. They have a genuine passion and enthusiasm for the projects that they work on. They're not just delegating stuff out. They want things to work. Now, with this, you can develop leadership quality by thinking of different ways that you can express your zeal and your enthusiasm. Okay. Let people know you care about their progress. Check in if they need checking in on. Ask how things are going. Get their feedback. Ask questions. Just get them talking, just so you can show that you care as much as they do. And here's the thing when one person shares something with the rest of the team, be sure to tell them how much you appreciate their contributions. Okay. So many different ways you can be passionate. Sometimes it's through words, gestures, rewards, but just show that enthusiasm for what you're doing. It makes such a big difference. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Now we've talked about communication skills in the past in terms of not just what you say, but the visual side, and we know listening and then being able to kind of feedback is super important. So this is a big one for me. Listen and communicate effectively. An important part of leadership, this really involves a focus on providing one-on-one communication with group members. So yes, we do it within a team, but also that one-on-one can make such a big difference. Okay. Now this is about effective, this is also, excuse me, transformational leadership here is effective when leaders are able to communicate their vision to followers. When they feel inspired and motivated by this vision, guess what? It's going to follow through effectively. They'll enjoy what they do, and it's going to ultimately have a fantastic outcome. So good leaders should express sincere care, concern for their team, verbally and non-verbally. Checking in, smiling, waving, acknowledging all those bits and pieces. So think spoken, think unspoken. But by making sure that lines of communication are open, leaders will always ensure, or good leaders will always ensure that team members feel they're able to make contributions, but importantly, receive recognition for what they've achieved. The smallest step on the big path, yeah. All those bits make a difference. Please believe me how important that is. It makes such a big, it does huge things with little tasks. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, this is one of the things we talked about this on previous sessions about setting or having a positive mindset in terms of how you put yourself in the most positive state of mind. Okay. If you want to recap on that, please go back, check the sessions. If you want to talk to me about it, then please do. But having a positive mindset is one of the most important things you can have as an effective or a transformational leader. You've got to be upbeat. You need to be optimistic because it serves as a source of inspiration for your followers. That's for sure, the people in your team. Now, if for some reason, as a team leader, as a manager, you seem discouraged, apathetic, members of the group are likely to become uninspired. Okay, so that whole thing we talked about earlier, what you show, generally speaking, is what you're going to see in your team. Okay, So even if things aren't going quite to plan, even look a little bit bleak, and your followers start to feel disheartened, look at ways of staying positive. This is not about rose tinted or rose colored glasses. It means maintaining a sense of optimism. Okay. What could be. Often, very often, when we look at what could be, people look on the downside, but look at what could be of what is the upside, how we get there, and how we kind of focus and get there to face that challenge. It does make such a difference. Okay. So think positive mindset always. This is one of my favorites when you are looking after or leading, working with a team. Encourage people to make contributions. If members of your team know that they are encouraged to do this, they will welcome your ideas, but importantly, and know that you welcome their ideas, they will put no end of effort into achieving. That's for sure. If you can encourage involvement from group members, and this is where we talk about democratic leaders, while they retain the final say. So, what's your opinion? What's your feedback? What's going on? Get all that information, but then ultimately you have the final say. It encouraged team members to be so active in coming up with ideas and plans. Nothing's a good idea, nothing's a bad idea. They just want to share stuff. They want to know that they're making a contribution. You're then in a position to be able to make that decision, saying, "Do you know what? Some great stuff here." Um, During some one-on-one coaching just recently, someone asked me a great question and said, as a leader, do I have to know all the answers? Because I just don't. And I said, well, nobody knows all the answers, but have the right people around you, ask the right questions. You can then come up with the solutions. It doesn't have to be that you bring everything together yourself, but you encourage people to do that with you. That for me is a great leader. Okay. Now, very often, using a democratic leadership style leads to greater commitment, more creative problem solving, which is massive, and improved productivity. Very often the ideas for change and improvement can come from the people who need to implement that change and improve because they can see it. You just guide it, direct it, and understand what needs to be done. Make sense? Good. Okay, let's continue there. Motivate your followers. Leaders, transformational leaders also provide inspiration, motivation to encourage their followers to take action. We often talk about the whole thing, knowledge is power. Action and taking action is the real power. Knowledge is potential power. So inspire people. Now, that's not easy. We know that. Okay. But you don't need motivational speeches to get your group going, to get your team going. Um, we've looked about this when we talk about motivational mapping, but be passionate about your ideas and goals. Help your team, help your followers feel included in the process. People like to receive information in different ways in terms of why change is exciting or why change will bring stability. But also look at rewards, recognition, praise. All those things make a difference. Why do we have such a focus on motivational mapping? Because there are things within your motivations that allow you to feel recognized, rewarded, and motivated to do so. So look at it from the team around you. Look at what it is that's going to get them feeling good, rewarded, and make sure you recognize that. Okay. So motivation of your followers is so important. Okay. Ties in again with rewards and recognition. Okay. The big thing and a really important quality of a good leader is knowing that offering effective recognition and reward is one of the best ways to help your team feel appreciated and happy. Okay. Sometimes it's monetary. Sometimes it can be just a thank you. Sometimes it can be just something that really puts a smile on their face and lets you know that you care. But here's the thing. We know this from experience. Happy people tend to perform better at work. If you're happy, you're focused, you're motivated, you're excited, you deliver. Again, that's why we have such a positive focus on motivational mapping. Make sense? But think reward, think recognition. It doesn't always have to be big rewards. Sometimes it just has to be some kind of praise, feedback, something that somebody's not expecting. Yeah? Look for it, do it, deliver it. Please, make such a big difference. Okay, let's continue. So here's the thing as well. Very often there is that thought about following successful paths, and sometimes doing something new can be a little bit, well, what if that's not successful? Well, we know trying something equals feedback. Okay. So here's the thing. Let's think about trying new things as a leader. Okay. Now, this doesn't have to be a one-way relationship. Work toward developing some of your leadership qualities. Don't forget to look to your followers for feedback and inspiration. Okay. So if there are things where you want to see, just take a bit of inspiration. Maybe somebody's done something great and that's made you feel good. Okay. Or maybe there's something that you've seen and you want to share with other members of your team. But pay attention to these things that have been effective in the past, but look out for new ways to inspire, motivate, and reward your group members. I promise you, it makes such a big difference. So keep looking for the new things. There'll be things that you've got in your armory that work beautifully, but don't be afraid to try new things. You will be inspired by team members. You will be inspired by others you see around you. Put those things in place, try them, get some feedback because they will have an impact. Okay. Keep freshening things up. So now we're warmed up. What we're going to do is look at those 8 steps to becoming the leader that you want and need to be. We've looked at different leadership styles. We've looked at some kind of things to check through. Now we're going to look at 8 steps to becoming the leader you want and need to be, which will all tie in together beautifully, I promise. Okay, so let's start. First of all, be alert even to new potentials. Reality is not absolute, but rather subject to constant change. Okay. So you think about inventors, explorers, people have really kind of got into social change who have later achieved greatness. Okay. What you've got to look at is simply look at certain people are successful because they're lucky to be in the right place in the right time. Okay, the people will always say that to you. However, if you don't, or if they hadn't had their eyes open for opportunity, then it wouldn't have mattered where they are. Make sense? So, right time, right place, but always being alert. What's going on? What's happening? What can I make a difference with? Okay, so keep looking out for things. Second, and we kind of touched upon this a little bit already, accept inspiration from wherever it comes. Even people that are doing are considered your opponents, competitors. Why? Because the best and the wisest leaders through history constantly studied their competition. Whether it's politics, business, we constantly see examples of this. So, who's doing something that looks great, something that maybe you could transfer to be successful within your team? Yeah. Don't be afraid to do that. Very often, if we want to feel inspired, want to take something new, look for it. Okay. If you don't look for inspiration, you won't find it. Simple as that. Okay. So make sure that you put that out there for yourself. The third step is learn something new and promote it in new ways every day. Okay. So what does that mean? You're continually seeking to expand your horizons internally and externally. Feed your mind, think about new lessons, fill with knowledge, but keep constantly expanding your social horizons as well as you can. Okay. And this is a big one. Often when we look at learning, you sometimes think about books and so on and so forth, but seek out and meet new people, different people, and get into their social situations. Okay. Now, these experiences that you have will always have an influence on how you lead. Okay. So think about environment. What I mean by that is if you're constantly thinking about changing, being involved in different environments, improved environments, ones that maybe challenge you a little bit, guess what? That allows you to grow and develop. So it then allows you to grow and develop your team. Okay. So look at learning a new and constantly think about the environment you're in. Yeah, makes sense? Cool. Fourth step to think about is here is search for and find answers in subtle clues. Keep constantly questioning. Look beneath the surface. Don't stop looking for questions to answer because it makes such a big difference. Okay. Now, this very much is an extension of step 3 that we just talked about. You're seeking new knowledge. But this also means you need to step off of the traditional paths of knowledge. So I said often more people will read books. But here's the thing, take seminars, speak to coaches, as there's more room for questioning and debate. Okay. It's really good to be able to go through situations like this, which is why I always say, if there's any questions at the end of this, ask, get feedback, because there's going to be something nibbling away that you feel that you need to expand on or get more information on. So as part of that, make yourself a promise. Whatever you take on board, whatever you learn, question it, get more feedback, which is why things like this are great. Speaking to coaches is fantastic. It just allows you to understand more and have further debate on reasons why and how it affects your situation. Yeah. The fifth step, improvise. If there's no existing solutions, no excuse. Okay. Very often I work with people that say, well, I don't know what to do. There's nothing we've got in place that will fix that. It's like, okay, good. So what are we going to do? Let's think of something new. Let's improvise. Let's come up with something different. But what that means is there's something that is required. Then you have to become innovative. You have to think again. This is where maybe get your team involved. Now, how do you, and this is the thing I often find with people is very often they'll put a barrier up to something new. So how do you know it won't work if you've never tried it before? Okay. So think about this. Not all approaches need to come from the front. Look at the problem from all sides. That means not just looking from different angles, but getting other people involved. Okay. Now, what you do when you start doing things like that is you get to break things down systematically and you attempt different solutions in various combinations until you come up with something that's workable and is worth putting in place. Make sense? Good. So no excuse. If it haven't been done before, look at something you can do different. Yeah. Let's continue. The sixth step for you, and this is a nice one. Make at least one person within your team that you care about happy every day. And I'm guessing you'll care about everybody in your team. But here's the thing, if you make it a point to be thoughtful and caring for one person every day as a minimum, then what happens is this thoughtful caring behavior become a habit, not just for you, but for the people in your team around you as well. Why is that such a good thing? Because one, it feeds your own personal happiness, which is great. But just imagine how quickly that feeling spreads throughout your team. People enjoy working with you and for you and within that organization, within that team. It creates such an amazing environment. Okay. So think about what good or thing can you do to make someone happy within your team each day. It'll only take a moment, but it'll have a massive impact long term. Yeah. Okay. Number seven, and this is a really good step here. Offer help, even if there's no apparent advantage to you. Okay. Um, Now sometimes it's an interesting one to get your head around, but this is more than just giving feedback or writing. This is means actually giving time, energy, and the best of yourself. Okay. Now, sometimes it means helping someone you don't know that well, but I tell you what, it will be. It will be a very personal action. So always make sure that you're there to help. As I said, sometimes there may be no apparent reason to do that or advantage to you. But what you will find, underlying trends will make sure that whatever you give is something you're going to get back in terms of loyalty, following, and being able to get to where they want to be, which makes you look even better and make sure that the organization gets to where they need to be as well. Yeah. Everything that you do is worth it in the end. Okay. And then the eighth thing, the eighth step, negativity. Okay. Now, I know we've talked about this before on different sessions and so on, but don't let negativity get the best of you or be your last word on anything, any given subject. Okay. Because here's the thing, within your team, if your final words are negative, then no matter how hopeful you may be, the potential of a project or action, the lasting impression you give to others is one of negativity. You're a can't rather than a can. Yeah. Focus on the positive. As I said, this is not about wearing rose tinted glasses, but focus on the positive. You're more likely to see a positive outcome. Okay. Because you're looking for it. When you look on the downside, okay, it's fine to see them, but look at what the positives can be, because then you'll see them, you'll work towards them, and they're the ones that happen, and your team will come with you. Okay. Now, here's the thing, if you do, and I know you will, follow these 8 action steps, not only will your leadership actions go through the roof, you'll also lead yourself to a more happy and successful life. And that, in essence, is a brilliant thing that you're able to do through something that you love and enjoy, and you're able to develop others because it reflects so well on you, but importantly, it makes you feel good. And that's what's going to give you that happy, successful life. Okay. But we're not quite done because there's a few other little bits and pieces I just want to share with you. Okay. Now, for me, after any good warm up and then your workout, you need a great cool down. And what I want to give you here is something this is going to go in with what we've talked about in terms of becoming the leader that you wish to be. Okay. Now, this is about time. Time is the essence of all of this through effective time management. Okay. So if you can combine the steps we've gone through with the points that are about to follow, you're going to be in a really, really great place. Okay. Now, one of the things for me when it comes to time and time management, it's also about managing your life. Okay. Diarizing things, reminders. The advantage of that are going to come clear in just a moment when we go through it. But the thing that you'll also get is if you are demonstrating effective time management, using the best of your time. What will happen is the people around you within your team will be influenced, will be able to learn, excuse me. And it means they'll have more time to be able to do the things that they want and need to do as well. So everybody wins because you're setting that example and showing them a great way to act. Now, it doesn't mean they have to follow what you do exactly in terms of here's your calendar, here's how you structure it. But what they'll do is have a version of it that works for themselves, but they'll see how effective it is for you. So let's have a look at this and make sure that there's some good points for you to go through here. So clarify your goals and your strategy. Be so clear about your aims and ambitions, both short and long term. Okay. Write them down. And once you know what you really want to achieve and why, it's always important to attach that why. So you've got an emotional attachment and something that keeps you motivated. It's easier to make decisions about what needs doing and to plan it accordingly. Okay. What that brings you is structure. Okay. But what it also means, if you're clarifying your goals and strategy for yourself, you're also able to show people how that fits in terms of their role, what you'd like them to do and how it fits into a bigger plan. Okay. So everyone's making a contribution. Again, focus on your top priorities. You'll be more productive, you'll be more profitable if you can identify and focus on the most important areas of your business. Okay. This might mean, we talk about in a bit, where you delegate things so you're able to focus on bigger picture stuff. And maybe there's people within your team that are able to do things for you that allow you to get on with that, if that makes sense. But what it means is you build strong foundations and the rest start to follow with you. Okay. Make sense so far? Cool. So the next thing that follows that, schedule your time. Literally write an appointment in your planner. And if you don't have something like that, you really need one. Set aside realistic block of time to prioritize your actions. Okay. Now, straight away, what this will do, and I promise you this reduces anxiety over not having enough time because it keeps you focused. Very often we drift and lose time because we're not sure what should be coming next. Okay. Plan your day, plan your week, plan your month. Or do it reverse. Plan your month, plan your week, plan your day. As long as you've got those actions in place, anxiety will reduce, stress levels will reduce because you know where you're going, you've got the appropriate amount of time to do it. And if something comes up, you can effectively change things. Make sure you reschedule. Look at the knock-on effect. But it also allows you to look at the consequences of leaving something and the consequences of doing something. Positive and negatives right there, okay? This is a little tip, but it's huge in terms of how it works for you. Very often we're asked if we can do something. Before you accept anything, always check your schedule before you commit, okay? What can happen sometimes is others will divert you from your objectives. Now, that's going to happen from time to time, but check on your schedule because maybe it's not, I don't start right this moment, right this second, right today, but I can start it tomorrow because I can get this done and then I'm clear and I'm free and I won't be kind of distracted in any way, shape, or form, okay? Make sure you do that. It's a simple step, but it makes a huge difference. Okay. And then just as we're coming to our conclusion here, create supportive systems. Filing, whether it's digital or otherwise, management and communication. Okay. So how often do you communicate? How do you do it? What's that going to look like? Do your team know? Do the people around you know so they know what's coming? Okay. Reality checks. Okay. This is a good one to think about. Will your current activity have a positive outcome? Or are you doing it to avoid something else? Very often when I'm talking to people when we're doing one-on-one coaching, they'll talk about being busy and overwhelmed and so on. And very often we'll look at a little habit that comes up where they put things to one side, avoid something because they don't feel they're ready. They're not prepared. They're not looking forward to it. It's not something they enjoy. Okay. But if you can get your head around whether this is something that needs to have a positive outcome or you're trying to do something to avoid a new task, put simply, what happens is you're more likely just to pick it up, get on with it, and realize, do you know what? It's not that bad after all. Actually, there's a good thing from it. So with every task that you've got, even if it's something you don't enjoy, look at what that positive outcome would be. Even if the positive outcome is it's done for another week, great. I can really focus on the things that I enjoy. Or the positive outcome is it's not my favorite task, but what it allows me to do is talk to my team, make them help them be more productive, get them earning more money. Make sense? Cool. Thank you. So, delegate. People are very often afraid to do this. Why? Because it's tempting to do something yourself that you think you can do faster and better. But here's the thing: how do your team learn and grow if you don't give them the opportunities to do stuff? Okay. What it also does is slows you down, keeps you away from things that maybe you don't need to be, or keeps you doing things you don't need to be doing and stops you doing things that you really need to focus on and do the bigger picture stuff. Okay. So think long term. If you're delegating something now, you may have to show somebody a task so they get it to the standard and level that you need it to be. But in the future, what happens is because they know what they're doing, they'll be able to do it for you. It'll be done appropriately. Your team will be motivated. It boosts their confidence no end because you're giving them an opportunity to develop a new skill and also encouraging a new level of trust. Make sense? It's all about learning for you and for them. Delegation is great. Okay. So if there are things you can do, not just palm off, but things that you can do that have a positive, look at doing it because it makes such a difference to your time. And then think about repeating your success and learning. I always talk about, learning from things that you've done, whether it's gone well or not quite to plan. A great example I put here is very often, this is not everyone, but very often for a lot of people, they become super productive when they've got a few days to go until they're going away on holiday. How much do they get done? It just seems to happen. Work seems to evaporate. It just gets done, whether they're sharing stuff, when they're getting stuff done themselves. So here's the thing. What happened? What motivated you? Okay, you got your holiday coming up, but what did you do in those days where you were ultra productive? Okay. Are there any strategies or techniques that you can continue to employ that allow you to be effective and focused on a regular basis so you can repeat them and even share them with others? Okay. Maybe the thing to do, if you can't get to that point straight away, is imagine you're going away and you've got yourself a bigger deadline. See if you can work through your day accordingly. Okay. Then you can learn the strategies that you started to employ. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, balance. Please make sure you look at not just your work life, but all your personal activities too. Okay. Make sure you've got that balance in it so you're able to make time in terms of scheduling for personal activities as well as work, friends, family, health, fun, all the bits that go with it. Um, I know for myself, and if for many other people, you've got to balance your time. If you're not happy or doing things that you enjoy, then being at work, you're not going to be the best of yourself because you've got to refill, you've got to give yourself that energy you need to reduce your stress and make yourself feel good. Okay. Time management, as I mentioned earlier, is about life management. So look at what you need to do for work, but also look at what you need to do for yourself and your family and your friends as well. Yeah. And before you finish, and this is a really important tip. Now you can do it at the end of the day or the start day, but I prefer at the end of the day. When you've finished your working day, tidy your desk, make any notes about what needs to be done tomorrow and start listing and prioritizing those tasks for the following day. If you've planned in advance, you'll probably already have that pretty much nailed down, but just finalize those tasks to make sure you're set for when you come in the following day. Why? Because you'll worry less in the evening, you'll relax, and you'll be prepared and focused when you come in the next morning. You won't be thinking, what am I doing now? You go, great, here's my plan for the day, and off you go. Yeah. Good. Okay. So hoping that has all made sense and given you plenty of things to look at. Now, as always, and I really, really, really can't emphasize this, I mean this. If there's any questions, anything you want to ask, anything that's resonated with you, or anything that you just feel you want a bit more clarification on, message me, email me, get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. And all the best and good luck with becoming the leader that you want and need to be. Take care.